What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com after the Packers' victory over the Washington Redskins here Saturday night in Washington there. I'm in New York. Thought I'd jump on here and talk about what we just witnessed and see what questions you guys might have. I think, a pretty strong showing overall from the defense and obviously Aaron Rodgers playing, leading the offense. That's pretty promising. The fact that Taysom Hill is your leading rusher is probably not exactly what Mike McCarthy had in mind on a week that he spent all day, every day talking about how they wanted to get the running backs more opportunities. I believe Jamal Williams, who was the starting running back tonight, had 7 carries for 12 yards. That's not going to get it done. The tackling was better. Al, you're absolutely right. That was another point of emphasis all week. McCarthy kept harping on it, and it was noticeably better coming right out of the gate. I think we all saw the struggles. You guys were following on Twitter, obviously. The backup offensive line, straight across the board, especially the second teamers, really tough to get anything going, either in the run or protecting the quarterback. Brett Hundley, Joe Callahan, didn't really matter which guy was back there. They didn't really have a whole lot to work with on passing downs. Jason Spriggs, I think, in particular, had a really rough night. And but one kind of... I thought one guy who kind of acquitted himself well there, the kind of third and fourth string, was Jeff Gray, the kid from Canada. I thought he had a pretty good showing. Obviously, got to go back and watch the game again, but that's the first impressions. I think you saw Rodgers on that touchdown drive show you just how kind of deadly this offense can be. Lots of different ways to hurt you. That touchdown... if you follow me on Twitter, I put up kind of 2 shots of how they kind of huddled in the middle there with their 2 tight ends set. Rodgers looks to see how the defense responds personnel-wise, sees that they've responded with a basically base or heavy, and then spreads it out. He has Martellus Bennett lined up, singled up there on the outside. It's an easy pitch and catch. I can say it's easy, but it's a lot of work, obviously, for Martellus Bennett, especially jumping up and taking that ball away. But that's how the Packers can kill you, and that's what kind of the whole point of getting those 2 tight ends this season for McCarthy and Rodgers to play with. You saw how kind of they can mix and match personnel and really kind of march up and down the field. So let's get your questions. What's the classic radio mic for? That's for my podcast. Need to go get a running back, Ted? I'm not so sure, Aaron. I think they've got some running backs. They need to make some holes. There wasn't a whole lot to work with there, especially when you're running it straight into the teeth of the defense. The power running game is never going to be their strong suit. And I know I had a lot of people talking about, they said they were going to run the ball more. The passing game is in their blood. And when their best running plays always come in situations where they are able to take advantage of teams gearing up to stop the pass. They're never going to be a run-first team. They're never going to be a great power-running team, they ran a lot of power, they didn't run a whole lot of zone stretch, a lot of ISO blocking, a lot of angle blocking. So it really didn't surprise me that they struggled again running the football. King looked good. Yeah, Lloyd, it was funny because halfway through, I think the first half, I kind of had to go back and, refresh my memory, but he didn't get targeted a whole lot. And he was out there for a good little bit, but they didn't really go after him. How was the pass rush tonight? Kim, it was sporadic. They got some intermittent pressure here and there. The only pressure that Jaron Elliott got was on an unblocked down. Reggie Gilbert really didn't go anywhere. Kyler Fackrell, while he was active, he didn't really sniff the quarterback. So, I think that's a major concern for this team. The idea that if they're rushing 4, they're going to have trouble getting to the quarterback. How do you think the running game will be when Ty is healthy, Jason? I think it's much more about getting into regular season game planning and having Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. Those are the things that are going to make the running game go. It's much more about play calling, feel, and game plan than it is about lining up, firing out of the stance of the offensive lineman and beating the guys across from you. That's just never been how they've been kind of constructed as a team. Janice did well. Yes, Will. I thought he had an outstanding night. He pretty much, caught everything thrown at him and looked good on special teams. He looked absolutely outstanding on that big throw up the right sideline from Brett Hundley, which is an area where he has struggled, tracking the ball deep, as opposed to those plays where he can play with his eyes at the quarterback, famously in the Arizona game. This was a play where he was running full speed up the right sideline and did a great job of tracking the football in the air. So yeah, I thought he had a good night. McCarthy's at the mic. Yeah, there you go, Sarah. So if you want to jump over there and hear what he has to say about injuries, I'm sure he'll give you the goods. Marty is noticeably a larger man than the others on the field. Yeah, Matt, every day at practice, he towers over everybody. The only kid I think who even comes close to matching up is Michael Clark, the undrafted free agent wide receiver out of Marshall. Good evening, Steve. Thanks for joining me. Zone D in the red zone, Sammy, they do it all the time. I know what you're saying. A lot of times that is Dom's go-to call where he'll rush 3 and then just drop 8 and try and, take away all the lanes. Obviously, in this case, if I'm, thinking of I think you're specifically thinking of the touchdown to Crowder, just too much cushion, too much space given to the wide receiver there. Aaron Jones, I thought Aaron Jones actually ran pretty well. There were a couple plays where, he looks like he has a 3-4 yard gain and it turns into a 5 or 6 yard gain. That's what you want. You want to see those legs keep churning. You want to create yards after contact, something Mike McCarthy talked about all week. I thought he had a pretty good night. Now, people are going to look at his stat line and kind of, dismiss it, but I thought he ran pretty darn well considering what he had in front of him. Next game, they should put McCaffrey, Yancey with Aaron to see how good they really do. Yeah, Yancey has to get back from, the quad injury. McCaffrey, I think, would do well. Who do we play next? You play the Denver Broncos. Is Hill ahead of Callahan? Steven? He wasn't yet, but tonight will definitely nudge him that way. He was electric tonight on those running plays. He looked decent in the passing game. Now, Callahan didn't really have much to work with. He was kind of under duress all night. The coach has got to take that into consideration, especially on those third downs. I mean, Jason Spriggs was having a really tough time with everything Washington was throwing at him. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny Hill's electricity and his playmaking ability. You saw it on that touchdown run. That's just outstanding movement from a guy who, if he's going to make this roster or even the practice squad, he's got to make plays, and he made them tonight. Oh, Davis muffed the punt, caused the punt return job up in the air. Yeah, Devin, I said it online, and I said it last week to you guys. All it takes is one, mistake, one big mistake to throw the competition wide open, and that's what happened tonight. Now, they put him back out there after that, and they didn't use Cobb. They used McCaffrey late in the game, which makes sense. They know what they have in Cobb, but you cannot do it. You just can't. You cannot give that field position away. It was absolutely brutal. Now, the defense did a great job of holding Washington to only 3 points on that turnover. But, he looked unsure of himself. He looked tepid, timid, whatever you want to say. It looked very reminiscent of the play in Tennessee where he coughed up the football. So, it's going to be maybe kind of a live with it, die with it kind of thing where, if he catches it clean and gets a little head of steam going, we've seen what he can do. He's an electric. His speed is undeniable. But you can't live with turnovers back there. And that's something Micah Hyde brought that really wasn't talked about when he left in free agency. That's a guy who is very sure-handed, who always played the ball well. So, that's something they're gonna have to look at. What do I think of Williams? I think he's a very good runner. I think he runs hard. I think he didn't have much to work with tonight. Second team O-line struggled tonight. Yeah, Lee, I think you're being kind when you say struggled. Special teams coverage looking decent. Yeah, Matt, I thought the special teams played well overall tonight, other than Davis's mishap. We need to beat Denver and the Rams in this preseason game. No, you don't. Not at all. Why would you need it? It doesn't mean anything. Remember, never forget, the Detroit Lions went 4-0 in the preseason and then proceeded to go 0-16. Preseason results mean absolutely nothing. Great game by Hawkins. Greg, I thought he played very well. I thought he was active, and I thought he was really instinctive on some plays. And, yeah, I thought he had a strong showing. Definitely. Tripp is a hell of a special teams guy. Yeah, Matt, I would agree. D-line depth a legitimate concern? I don't think so much as the offensive line depth is a legitimate concern. I thought they even those deep guys late into the night, I thought they acquitted themselves pretty well. No pass rush. Yeah, Andrew, we talked about it a little bit before. The only time they're going to get to the quarterback outside of having Matthews or Perry, and even they struggled to get to the QB tonight when they were only rushing 4, is going to be when Dom's calling pressure, and that is the bed they've made, and now they're going to have to lie in it. Reggie Gilbert, I know, had made some noise kind of over the course of camp, looked decent last week. He couldn't get anything going tonight, right up until the end when he kind of flew by. But that sack came on a play where the quarterback had to hold the ball forever, or chose to hold it. So, yeah, I think the pass rush is a legitimate concern. How did King do? Martin, I thought he had a good night. They didn't target him much. What brief flashes you saw, it looked good. Vogel, oh no. Yeah, Tamor, I thought Vogel had a rough first half, but I thought he really improved in the second half. But yeah, they got to get more consistency out of him. There's no doubt about that. Are concussions the new hamstrings for the Pack? Nope. They just play football. Vogel a lock? I don't know about a lock. He's close to it, but I don't think he's a lock. Is King the next Charles Woodson? Slow down. Marty B in the red zone, money, 10 TDs this year. I don't know about 10 TDs, but he's definitely going to be causing problems for some defenses. They need to make some cuts this week. No, Gary, they don't. There's only one cut this year. 90 down to 53, which will be due after the last preseason game. Only one cut. His Davis heading back to McCarthy's gulag. I tell you what, he drops another one. He probably will. Second unit secondary has some roster guys. John, I agree. I think, heck, even this third unit. I mean, I thought Lindsey Pipkins had another good, strong showing tonight. I thought Hawkins played well. So, yeah, I would agree. Is Aaron playing next game? Kyle, that's a good question. I didn't think he was going to play tonight. And then he came out there for the series and obviously led them to the touchdown. I wonder if, they've seen what they want to see. Maybe they start Hundley next week because they need to showcase him a little bit, for wanting to up his trade value next year. But I don't know. I would tend to think he probably does play a couple series in Denver. But we'll see. I'm sure Mike McCarthy will keep us guessing all week, as he always does. Will Pipkins make the team? Brendan, I doubt it. I think he's a strong possibility for the practice squad, though. Pipkins look good. Yeah, I agree. Ryan Wood tweeted, Rodgers played well, might make the roster. That's good. If Marty gets 10 this year, that means better things for everyone. Lee, I would agree. Wow, a lot of Pipkins questions. Yes, I do like him. I liked him in the spring, but I thought he kind of started slow in camp. But he's really come on the last couple weeks. Bryce or Evans? I tell you what, Austin, Marwin Evans is really making a case. Now, I think Bryce is pretty solidified as that number 3 safety, especially when they go to that nitro package and they like to drop down Morgan Burnett. Bryce has been the first guy up opposite HaHa Clinton Dix pretty much every time the ones have been out there. But I tell you what, Evans has looked good. And he has really come on and made some plays and stuck his nose in there against the run. I mean, it's hard to think that they can't find a way to keep him on the roster because, I think he's been pretty darn impressive. I think McCaffrey should make the 53. Do you? Zach, I don't. And I'll tell you why. Because, yes, he catches everything. There's no doubt about it. Good route runner. Doesn't give you much on special teams, though. And he has got to play something on special teams to, justify keeping him on the roster. And let's face it, you could cut him and put him on your practice squad. And I know people are like, oh, but someone's going to steal him. And every year we go through this, and every year no one bites. Because no one is going to take a guy cut from another team, bring him on their 53-man roster, which they automatically have to do, when he, A, doesn't play special teams, and B, doesn't know their system. So now you're essentially going to take a guy, put him on your 53, and not play him probably for many weeks. He's going to sit there in street clothes. I just don't see it happening. So they could easily put him on the practice squad, and if something happens at the wide receiver position injury-wise, then you bring him up. We saw that with Geronimo Allison last year. I think that's the perfect use for McCaffrey. Did Josh Jones play? No, he did not. It was a bit of a surprise, actually, because the last practice we saw, he was out there. That was the day after he had dropped out of practice after getting his foot stepped on, according to McCarthy. It looked a lot more serious than that with him sitting on the cart with a huge bag of ice on his foot. But the next day, he was back out there in pads, and he participated in the entire, I think it was 2.5 hour practice. Didn't think anything of it. and then today he was a scratch. So you do wonder if maybe something happened in that jog through practice they have the day before the game. McCarthy maybe has given an update since then, but I doubt it since he's not required to in the preseason. But that's definitely something to monitor tomorrow and going forward. Let's see. If we don't see some improvement from the backup O-lineman, I can easily see Ted picking someone up when the cuts start coming. It's a possibility. You know, the personnel guys are always looking. They're definitely going to be monitoring everybody around the league. I always kind of think that, you know, they definitely will be calling guys like, you know, McKenzie out in Oakland and, you know, Schneider in Seattle, although I don't think you want any cast-offs from Seattle when it comes to the offensive line. But they'll obviously be, you know, tracking and looking at linemen come cut time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Fine, don't want to talk about Hill. Scott, I talked about Hill a bunch at the beginning, but I will talk about him again. I thought he had a great night. Thought he really made a case for himself. There's no doubt that he's pushed himself into the conversation for the number 3 spot. But there's a long way to go. I mean, Callahan did not have a lot to work with tonight. You know, he's pretty much under fire the entire time he went back. So coach has got to take that into consideration. But yeah, I think Hill absolutely, you know, kind of made a case for himself tonight. And I mean, it's no mystery. They gave him basically less than half a quarter last Thursday, and tonight they gave him an entire quarter. You know, maybe next week they give him a little bit more time, but they got to find out what they have there. And right now, it looks really promising. Can you get me in front of the NFL to fix their apps, Matthew? Gosh. You know, email me. I'll get your information to whoever. It's brutal, man. It's so brutal. What beer tonight? Hey, thanks for reminding me. I forgot. I have my Force Awakens cup. Does Ted bring in Ryan Matthews? No. Kenny Clark looks like an absolute beast. Yes. There was one play, I put it up on Twitter, where he came around on a stunt. Lowry cleared out the guard, and holy cow. You could just see Kirk Cousins kind of fearing for his life as he throws the ball away. He moves for a big man. He moves. It's impressive. Kentrell Bryce is a presence in the secondary. John, I totally agree. It's funny. I was talking to one of the Packers coaches at that first week of camp once the pads came on, and I said, you know, you guys some hitters back there, and you know, you had Josh Jones and Bryce. We saw what he could do last year, but he looks the same this year, and you know, he just got, you know, kind of a gleam in his eye and was like, yeah, you just wait. You know, Bryce is going to light some people up. And it's definitely happening. And now it was something last week where I think he was a little too eager. This week I thought he did a much better job of coming in under control. Are Taysom Hill jerseys available? You can make them at NFL.com. Hey, what's up, Timothy? Thanks for joining us. Times it perfectly. Yeah, I agree. Something else that I thought was interesting is that we saw a little bit more 2 tight ends tonight, especially from the starting group, which is something we haven't seen a ton of in camp. But you got to think that's something they're going to work a lot into this offense. It's something they can feature and really cause some problems with opponents. 18 still doing punt return drills in practice. Yep, he's always up there. Hi, Matt. How are you? Who was the worst player tonight? I got to give that to Jason Spriggs. I thought he had a really rough night. Hawkins played well, I hear. Thoughts? Yeah, Russell. I talked about him a little bit before, but yes, I thought he had a really strong night. Really instinctive. He did some really nice things in coverage. You know, I think most importantly, he looked better moving in space and tackling, arriving under control. That was kind of a theme all week, and I thought the team responded very well. You could tell they were very kind of disciplined, and they broke down in space, and it got a little rough there at the end of the game. There were a lot of shoulders being thrown, but for the most part, especially in the first half, I thought they played very well on defense. Any word on Beagle? Nothing yet. We did ask, but no updates on Beagle. First thing I think we might get is maybe tomorrow when McCarthy talks at the end of the day. Any concerns so far? Yeah, I would say the pass rush is a concern. And I think backup line, offensive line, is a concern. Have I already discussed the rookie running backs? Kiki, I have, but I'll do it again. I think each one of them ran pretty darn well considering what was given to them. McCarthy's calling a lot of straight up power, angle, didn't call a ton of zone, which is what they are best at. And there just wasn't a whole lot of area to operate for those guys. So I thought they did the best with what was available to them. Obviously, you'd like to see a few more kind of big plays. But again, I didn't think the opportunity was there for most of it. I got to go back and watch it. But, I thought Williams ran hard. I thought Aaron Jones ran particularly well. And I think Devontae Mays is really making a case for himself. And Khalif Phillips even, kind of late in the second half. I thought he ran hard. But again, there wasn't a ton of room to operate. Took a fourth down pass against the second D for Coz to score. Yeah, that is correct. All I wanted to see was a TD pass from A-Rod to Bennett, and I was not disappointed. No, you were not. There's going to be an Obi-Wan movie. All right, this isn't the forum for that, but maybe there is, and I'm pretty darn excited about it. BJ Raji question, thank you very much. Crystal Ball, what are we going to do about the rush? Probably not much. Got to be honest. Now, if I was the GM, I would have signed Elvis Dumervil when he was available. But, Ted Thompson, he's gonna do his due. I'll be very interested to see if they make any moves towards the end of camp. I doubt they do. And if they do make a move, I think it'll be for some very down the line undrafted free agent or, guy who's probably going to get cut anyway, something like that. Because that's how Ted operates. He doesn't make big swings for the fences at the end of camp. Heck, he doesn't do that at the beginning of free agency. So, if there are moves to be made, they will be incremental and not very splashy. But I think the onus is going to be on Dom Capers for most of the year to produce a rush. Let's see. Do you envision a lot of Ty motioning out? Yes, I do. I think you constantly see in this league the easiest way to get a defense to show you what they're doing is to spread things out. Especially if you start a guy in the backfield and then you spread them out, it messes with their keys and they have to declare because they have to switch. They have to, if that safety is responsible because you're blitzing, then he's got to walk out with that running back. And now you know. And as a quarterback, you already know pre-snap where you need to go with the football. Now maybe that guy's covered and you got to improvise from there. But I tell you what, Ty Montgomery, even if he's never a top flight number one running back, he causes so many problems for defense. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to see a whole lot of him this year. I have a solution to the pass rush. Just keep scoring on offense. It won't matter. That is a fair point. And judging by the moves made this offseason, that seems to be Ted's plan. Okay, brew or a single malt? Tonight it's brew. How did Fackrell do? Better against the run. That's what I will give him. And he made a really nice play on one of those smoke passes where the quarterback hits the guy in the slot. Fackrell was crashing down, recognized it, doubled back, basically made the play. Didn't quite make the tackle, but he slowed up the receiver enough that the rest of the cavalry arrived. I thought it was an improvement over what we've seen pretty much all camp. Long way to go, obviously. But, he played better tonight, I thought. Could have had a few picks tonight. Guys are in the right spots. Yeah, I agree. Especially that Pipkins one. You got to hold on to that. Hey, the Brewers won. Awesome. 36-35 is the key every week. Yeah, probably. Am I buzzed? No, Ben. Not yet. Working on it, though. Hill over Calhoun? Calhoun? You mean Callahan? Let's give Callahan, a line first before we start making these judgments. Injury update to Lowry. All we know is it's the knee. And the Packers don't need to tell us anything other than that, so they won't. I'll go to Green Bay in December to watch the Minnesota game. How cold is it? Traditionally, pretty darn cold. How did Kofi look tonight? John, I thought he had a rough night. And I think he's had a kind of a rough camp. I really liked his tape. I obviously didn't do anything on him in the draft process, had never really heard of him. When they drafted him, I went and looked at some of his stuff, and I thought, okay, I get it. Athletic guy who can probably play up and down the line. And they've tried to play him a bunch of different places, but he just doesn't look ready at all. I had hopes for the kid, but I thought he struggled tonight. I think he struggled all camp. It's going to be interesting to see if they even keep him around. Maybe he's a practice squad guy. Do you think we will go to the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl, if you please. They have a chance. You're welcome. How about Janice? Yeah, Trent, I talked about him a little bit before. I thought he had an outstanding night. No doubt about it. Trevor Davis, jobs in stake? At stake? Yeah, it didn't help him. Definitely didn't help him tonight. It was interesting that they threw him back out there after that next punt. But I tell you what, man, he just doesn't look sure of himself back there, especially if there's a little bit of rush in his face. I said it on Twitter, but it's all that. I know we all had the nice story about him sending tapes to Ron Zook this summer. That's all well and good, but that doesn't mean anything when there's a rush bearing down on you. That's why Micah Hyde was so great back there. It didn't matter if there was a guy here, if there was a guy away 10 feet away. It didn't matter. He caught everything clean. He was so smart back there. And that's what you need. You need sure hands. You need smarts. And Trevor Davis just looks scared catching these punts. So I don't know what it's going to take, but he needs to lose the fear because he's got the tools. We saw it last week. He saw the explosiveness. He saw the excitement. And that's great if you can bring that consistently. But if you're turning the ball over, it's the quickest way to the bench. How did Clark look? Mike, he looked like a beast. An absolute beast. I thought he played much better this week than last week, actually. Would you return a live NFL punt for $10,000? Probably. Help my kids out. How's Blake Martinez looking? Alex, I didn't think he played particularly well tonight. He had a really bad missed tackle out in the flat where he misjudged the running back's speed. He's had a quiet camp, and a lot of that is due to the fact that they haven't used, a lot of base personnel, which is when he's in there. He's been real hit and miss. Packers attack looking good with Jamal. I agree. Hawkins was impressive at corner. I agree. Mohammed, let's go. I agree. Geronimo did good today. I really liked that run after the catch. Gary, that was an outstanding play. He caught that out and kind of stutter-stepped on the sideline and then broke back in. And I mean, that's what you like to see. That's Packers football right there. Running after the catch, yards after catch. That was an outstanding play. And he had a couple other nice catches. I thought he had probably his best night, probably all summer, tonight. That's kind of the most involved he's been, the most productive he's been. I thought it was a good night for Geronimo. How did King do? I thought he looked good. King looks calm. He does. $1,000 hold my beer. Nice. You have been talking so long. Relax, grab a cup of coffee. I don't know what you're talking about. Gainesville, Florida, what's up? Tackling better tonight because last week it was atrocious. Justin, it was 1,000 times better tonight. Who blew coverage on the Cousins TD? It wasn't King. He wasn't out there, I don't think, at that point. Who impressed the most? That's a good question. I think Taysom Hill. I think he's got to be the buzz. He's going to be the buzz coming out of this game. Explosive playmaker. There's no doubt about it. More clutter behind you tonight. Yeah, I got some stuff. I'm in my office, which is really just an open spot in my living room. Packers need to cut Deadwood this week. Gary, no. You keep talking about guys getting cut. They're not cutting people. I mean, they may cut a guy like Bo Sandlin like they did yesterday who was injured. But these are Ted's guys. This is it. This is your team. To quote Norman Dale, my team is on the floor. Screen pass, yes. Another horrific job in the screen. Now, that said, the defense kind of knows there's probably a good chance there's a screen coming there because it occurred after a sack and then after a penalty. What was it, I think it was a second or third and 18 or something? Defense has a pretty good idea that you're either running a draw or a screen there. So while it wasn't pretty, I didn't really pay it too much mind because of that. Who do you see being the gem that makes the 53-man roster? Want your pick? Oh, Justin, you want my pick, huh? The gem? I gotta, I would say, I think Joe Carriage has a good chance. I know nobody wants to talk about fullbacks, but I do think Carriage has a good chance. I don't know. Outside of that, give me another couple weeks. Any undrafted O-lines make the 53? There's a chance. I think Jeff Gray's got a chance. I think McCray maybe has a chance, but we'll see. Is Pipkins number 3 corner? No. Top 10 D? I doubt it. Bears just had a beautiful kick 6. That's funny. You are buzzed for short. Ben, you keep saying people are always so obsessed with me being buzzed. I am partway through beer number 1. Scale of 1 to 10, how good do you think we will be? An 8. Has Devontae Adams improved in any specific areas? I think he's had an outstanding camp, and I think he's absolute murder coming off the line of scrimmage for defensive backs. And he's catching everything thrown to him. We all know his troubles in the past holding onto the football. I think he's been lights out this summer. Thoughts on the running game? I said it earlier in the video, but I'll recap. I think, preseason, they've never run the ball well in preseason, mostly because they are a game plan specific team when it comes to the run game. Their whole running game is predicated upon a defense reacting to Aaron Rodgers. And they do a great job, McCarthy does a great job of picking his spots, when to run the football and how to run it. And in the preseason, you never get a realistic look at how they operate because they're running lots of angle and power and stuff that they just don't use in the regular season. So I mean, they're training and they're practicing and they're doing that, but that's not how they work. They're not running a zone stretch on 2nd and 3 after a 7-yard completion on first down. That's how this team operates. And tonight you saw a lot of first down power, 2 tight end, or fullback, I formation stuff. That's just stuff they'll use occasionally, but that's not how they operate. That's not their identity. So while I get that it's frustrating that your 2 quarterbacks are your leading rushers tonight, I don't really pay it that much mind because that is just not. It's not their identity. It's not who they are. They're really, literally just practicing. So, I don't get too bent out of shape about it. Do they have a timetable on Ty? No, nothing that we've been given. We keep asking Montgomery about what kind of injury it is. All he'll say is it's a soft tissue injury. But no timetable that we've gotten. When you get a chance, try Gumblehead from 3 Floyd's Brewery. I will. I will do so. You miss Hyde? ? I don't miss him. I didn't know the man, but I think the Packers might miss him on punt return. He was sure-handed and also tied with Desmond Howard for the most punt returns for touchdowns in franchise history. Hard not to miss that. How's Jahari Evans looking? I think he's looking very good. I think he's stepped in and it's been a bit seamless, actually. What's your number 1 concern going into the season? For the Packers, probably the pass rush. It's just going to be a problem. Hawkins greater than Gunter greater than Pipkins. Greg, I don't know. I think Hawkins is definitely better than Gunter. I would like to see Pipkins bumped up the depth chart a little bit and see how he plays with some of the frontline guys. Because like I said, I've really liked what he's put out there. Now, we talked to Joe Witt Jr. and he, obviously is the man in charge, and he says that Pipkins has a lot to work on. He, even after last Thursday, where I thought he played a pretty strong game, Joe Witt Jr. said, he's very up and down, has a lot to correct, etc. So, Pipkins has got to fight his way up that depth chart. But I think Hawkins played extremely well tonight and took a big step to solidifying a spot. I think Pipkins may have Gunter. I don't know if Gunter makes it right now. Yeah, I tell you what, having Gunter play in the slot as they have this past week and a half is the surest sign that they are nearing the end point with Ladarius Gunter, because there is no way Gunter should be playing in the slot. He'll be destroyed there by most slot receivers. Haven't seen much out of Rollins in game action thus far. Yeah, well, they haven't thrown at him too much. I think he's played well. He's had a very good camp, but if you're not seeing a guy very much in the secondary, it's probably a good thing. Janis improving at wide receiver. Zach sure seems like it. He's had a strong kind of week and a half of practice. Had a really strong showing tonight. We'll see. Rollins made a nice play against the run tonight. Matt, well remembered. He did indeed. He stuck his nose in there. I think it was a 4th and short. But yeah, he got in there and That's what you want. That's what you need. Especially if Demarius Randall continues to be held out, you got to think Rollins is the guy in the slot. And that star position requires you. I mean, like Charles Woodson back in the day or Micah Hyde of recent vintage, you've got to be able to play the run. That is the whole reason Casey Hayward lost his job to Hyde back in the day, is because Hayward wasn't a willing tackler and Hyde was. And Rollins absolutely showed, kind of the grit necessary to get the job done tonight. Marty is awesome on Twitter. I agree. Gilbert, only sack, needs to make the 53. Yeah, Derek, the thing is it came against a fourth stringer and a quarterback who held the ball for like 5 to 6, 7 seconds. If you go back and you watch Gilbert, which I specifically was because I wanted to see if you could build upon what he did last week, he was stoned pretty much all night against the 1s and 2s. So, Gilbert is a great story, and you want him to do well, but, he's got to produce, I mean, J-Ron Elliott, at least he made some moves and got in the quarterback's face. It's a problem there. Those backups, it's a problem. Anthony, I think Martellus Bennett doing good. Did the tackling improve tonight? Yes, Jim. And since that's the 5th time I've answered that question, I am going to sign off. If I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. Just go back and watch the video again because I pretty much answer everything I can. And make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. The guys are furiously writing as we speak. We'll have all sorts of stuff up on the site. Thanks so much. And make sure you're at PackersNews.com for all your Packers needs. Thanks a lot, everyone.